Just a couple of days ago, we were really talking about South Minneapolis and Lake Street and the area there, around the Target being kind of the centralized location of all this. But yesterday into the morning hours, Megan, it's spread now, and this is an entire Twin Cities and even into the suburbs too concern right now. The fires, the looting, and the response from the Twin Cities has been different. It's been different in St. Paul than it was in Minneapolis.
Yeah, fire crews and police responded to several calls into the overnight hours about these fires that were burning. Some of them we're still seeing smolder this morning in St. Paul. We heard about the looting that was happening along University Avenue and just the sheer chaos that ensued. Our morning anchor, Chris Egert, has been live along University, kind of in the St. Paul area all morning. You've been talking with fire crews and business owners and passerbys about what is happening in this city this morning, Chris.
Megan, we're talking around 150 businesses that have sustained damage, multiple fires that have burned buildings. I've stood in front of 5 or 6 different buildings as they were burning this morning. And this one behind me, Lloyd's Pharmacy, they're in the process of demolishing it after they fought the fire here overnight. And you can see now it is starting to flame up again. One example of one business here in the community. And we have not seen any active looting. We have not seen anyone out causing any trouble. But as the sun has come up and as the day has gone on, we're seeing regular folks who are walking out of their houses and want to get out in the community and get their eyes on what they've seen because they really can't hardly believe it. And it jumped out at us when we saw a mother and daughter just over our shoulder there taking some pictures and kind of documenting all this. And they've been kind enough to wait for a few minutes so we can talk to them about the situation. And you felt it was important to come out here with your daughter and sort of show her this. How are you trying to turn this into a teachable moment for her?
Well, we talk about injustice in the world a lot, and actually we just came out for a bike ride. We're aware, of course, what's going on, but since I have a child, we were at home yesterday. But I think that, in terms of her teachable moment, is that a lot of people think it's too early to teach kids about social justice and injustice. And for us, it's really not a luxury to not have those conversations. This whole situation, let's understand, happened over $20, And I think that the bigger issue, there's some things maybe I don't, agree with in terms of tactics, but this is anger spilling over. This is, many years of frustration, lack of access, inequity, whether it's economic and racial, and this is a result of that. But I think that, for her, I hope that she'll be, one of the people in the world who are, holding up justice, and justice doesn't have to do with, who you are, your color. Anyone should stand for something that's wrong. And clearly when there's a lot of witnesses in public where someone is, loses their life, over $20, that's where I'm at with this.
So when you look around and you see a business like this that's been destroyed, it speaks to how complicated and nuanced this is, because I heard you just say, like, you support the right for people to be out demonstrating, and even to some extent the rioting that's happening.
Yeah. And from what I understand, that riders were trying to buy milk for their eyes and were refused supposedly, at Target. And the thing is that I understand, the frustration about that, but I don't know, this would not necessarily be my tactic for, I think that there's a lot of different things, legislation, laws need to change to make real impact.
So over the course of the last couple of days, City of St. Paul has made a very visible effort by their leadership. The police chief said, you're not going to burn our city down. We're going to be out. We're going to try to fight these fires. And there's been a lot of questions about the leadership coming out of the city of Minneapolis and whether they're doing the right thing. From your perspective, seeing sort of the leadership in the communities, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are, to me, this is pretty clear, cut and dry. You murdered someone in public, you should be charged. and that could squelch, all this. This would be resolved. I think that, people want justice, and in order to see that and to put an end to this, I think that there needs to be some charges brought against a person who committed murder in broad daylight.
Well, thank you for being so patient as we had all this adult stuff we were talking about there. I got a couple questions for you. Are you going to be all right talking on camera?
Yeah.
You got to talk so I can hear you, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, well, why don't you tell me a little bit about what you think. Did you see what happened to Mr. Floyd? Your mom talked to you about what happened to Mr. Floyd? The man who...
Oh,
the farm...
You're talking about,
yeah. Did your mom talk to you about what happened to George Floyd?
No.
The man who died? Okay, I think you guys talked about that. So tell me a little bit about what you think when you see a building like that burning off in the distance.
I think it's sad because all the medicine went to waste that was in there.
I think that's exactly right. And you talk about the community impact. The lady who goes to this drugstore, to Lloyd's Pharmacy, was just over here a short time ago saying, I don't know where I'm going to go to get my drugs now. And, that's what makes it so complicated.
Yeah, that's a big issue. I mean, when you think about impact, community impact, when things like this, things are burned down or looted, is that you're kind of destroying, at least if you live here, you're destroying your own community. And then also you have to find other resources, elsewhere. And then also the train services with stuff, people not being able to get their kids from daycare or go to work, but that's kind of it's not, what should I say? Riots are not built or constructed or strategic to make us feel comfortable. That's the whole thing. And you kind of have to find other ways. It is inconvenient. That's the whole point of it, is to inconvenience people and draw attention to this is an issue, and it's just outright rage. And in this way, some of this rage, is justified. But, I am for peaceful protest in most cases. I do think, historically there's been reasons, in which, like, of course, one being enslavement, where peaceful protest wasn't possible. But when you have situations like this, I think that the point is to be inconvenienced. And it's a privilege for us, even me as an able-bodied person or whatever, we don't think about our privileges in this country, and that's a huge problem. We're going to be inconvenienced, and we have to find a way to work around it until, justice is served, because really justice is what brings about peace.
Thank you for your time today.
Yeah, no.
It's been a really nice conversation, so thank you. Next time I talk to you, I expect more out of you, okay?
Yeah, you are.
I may have put you on the spot there. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. So, Matt and Megan, I have an opportunity to hear from folks about how complicated this really is. Somebody who wants to see action in the community, but yet doesn't condone a small mom-and-pop pharmacy like this now burned to the ground and being bulldozed right before our very eyes.
Chris, I was thinking as we were listening into this interview you just had, last night we were on air until after 1 o'clock showing the rioting, showing the fire, showing the chaos. I think it's equally as important for us to be on air now, getting these interviews and talking with folks who are coming in. Earlier, you had an employee of Lloyd's Pharmacy, and she talked about how they delivered to people in the community, how they made their own drugs specific for patients and their needs, how all of that is now gone. You had someone walking by hoping to go there to pick up something, and now they don't have that opportunity anymore to get the medication that they need. And it just goes to show, I think, the differences that exist in our community, the different viewpoints and how people are seeing things differently, and how we need to listen. We need to do a better job, and you're getting that from people coming out this morning who realize this is maybe not the ideal way to handle a situation, but every person we've talked to this morning says, you know what, I can understand to a level what's being done here, and I can empathize. My heart goes out because wrong has happened in a lot of areas. And so I think it's equally as important to talk with folks in daylight hours as they come by and they experience and they give you what they're seeing and what they're feeling as they see this.
Well, I mean, this is real people. It's not a storefront, because behind every storefront and behind every shard of broken glass, or whether it's an auto parts business that's been torched or a convenience store, I mean, people might say, well, that's a national chain. It's probably owned by somebody locally. It's a mom and pop operation more than most likely. So, I mean, this whole thing really is about people. You've got one side of this conversation that's saying we've been underserved and we've not been listened to for years, and this is the end result. And you've got a lot of other people who are saying this is not the way to prove your point.
Yep.
This is not the way. And then you've got a whole lot of people saying, what kind of leadership are we seeing right now to try to stop more of this from happening?
And Chris, you've made this point, but I think it's worth repeating about, you've been using that pharmacy as a case study, as one example, but you have to multiply that over and over and over again in your mind, and you start to get an idea of the scope of the destruction that we're dealing with, and all of the people's lives are going to be impacted. And I can't believe that brave little girl who you just talked to, who really, I mean, the innocence of a child, right, who cut right through all of it and just made that innocent, plain observation that, hey, people aren't going to be able to get their medicine from this pharmacy today, and that's wrong. And I mean, it hurts me. I know it hurts people who are watching, and there are probably a lot of parents out there this morning trying to figure out, how am I going to talk to my kids about what they're seeing right now, on TV and in person?
Yeah, well, we've been having the conversations at our house, and to your point, Matt, I'm sure every family is having this conversation in the Twin Cities. How do we get to this point? What happened here? What can they do as an up-and-coming, the next generation, to try to stop this? And it's complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To say
Obviously.
the least. Yeah.
It's very complicated.
Chris, thank you.